Putin Bad News Putin faces difficulty in countering the continuing popularity of Wagner chief Prigozhin. Makeshift memorials have been erected in nearly 24 cities across Russia and occupied Ukraine in the days since Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin's presumed death, a sign of the commander's lingering popularity and a potential challenge for President Vladimir Putin amid divisions within the elite and the military over the conduct of the war. What's your Telegram status? Get the most recent information on Russia's war in Ukraine by subscribing to our channel. 2 months after Putin labeled him a traitor for leading a brief rebellion against Russia's military in June, Prigozhin and other top Wagner leaders are presumed dead after his Embraer business jet crashed Wednesday evening northwest of Moscow. While not a national outpouring of shock and grief, the memorials demonstrated Prigozhin's support across Russia in hardline pro-war circles and highlighted the Kremlin's delicate task of managing potential anger among his supporters, with many in Russia's elite believing Prigozhin's presumed death was an assassination ordered by the Kremlin. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, called the rumors of Kremlin involvement all lies. The downed plane has taught Russia's ruling class one thing: if you cross Putin, you will surely die. Dmitry Kolozev, a Russian analyst and independent journalist who fled the country after the invasion of Ukraine, said that placating Prigozhin and Wagner's supporters, who he said included junior and middle-ranking military officers, was the Kremlin's biggest challenge. Despite claiming allegiance to Putin, Prigozhin exposed the regime to danger, demonstrating his own weakness and earning the just punishment he deserved. This message was clearly understood by the elites, he said. At the same time, Kolezhov continued, there is a cult of Prigozhin among a broader audience of military activists, supporters of the Wagner PMC, and Wagner veterans. Putin needs to pay tribute to Prigozhin and offer an alternative version of his death to prevent these people from becoming his opponents and keeping them from possible radical actions. Putin acknowledged as much on Thursday, calling Prigozhin a talented person, who achieved the necessary results, but made mistakes in his handling of the mutiny. Prigozhin's approval rating had reached 58% in the week prior to the rebellion, according to independent opinion pollsters Levada Center. However, the memorials praising the Wagner leader came despite a concerted Kremlin propaganda campaign in the wake of the mutiny to tarnish Prigozhin as a greedy criminal and traitor to Russia. Russia had already begun preparing for life after Wagner prior to the Prigozhin plane crash. On the ground were flowers, photos labeled, Hero of Russia, Wagner flags and badges, candles, religious images, and even a violin, a symbol of the mercenary group known as the Orchestra, whose members called themselves musicians. They all wore black shirts emblazoned with Wagner's grinning skull logo or Wagner camouflage, and many of them hid their faces. Despite the brutally high casualty rates in Wagner, particularly among ex-convict fighters, and widespread allegations that those who fled the battle were often executed, Prigozhin inspired loyalty in his men because they perceived him as standing up for them against intransigent military bureaucrats. Pavel Shabrin, a Wagner fighter from St. Petersburg, wrote a poem about Prigozhin that began, "He was with us at the front, in the trenches, in dugouts. He understood our struggles and shared in our triumphs. He lived in tents, ate porridge with a knife, and lit candles for the saints and martyrs in front of the icons." With every word, he cut the air like a whip, he wrote of Prigozhin, who refused to smile and flatter the room. While visiting his men in underground bunkers in the war zone, Prigozhin grew in popularity by filming salty, brutally direct videos near the front lines, some of them apparently in Bakhmut. As Russia's war effort waned, he became a trusted truth-teller for many after he exposed military failures and heavy casualties in violation of Russia's laws against discrediting the military. On 2 separate days, he posted videos in which he yelled obscenities at Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov, accusing them of treason and demanding more ammunition while showing off the fresh bodies of Wagner men killed in battle in Bakhmut. In recent days, families of Wagner soldiers have taken to Telegram group chats to express their sorrow and loyalty, while also voicing their concerns about receiving the benefits and compensation they are due. The U.S. Treasury Department blacklisted Prigozhin's logistics and management boss, Valery Chekalov, in July. He was a passenger as well. Being a warrior means you'll never die. The deceased Wagner fighter's sister wrote, "For me, he is the man with a capital M who fought and won the battle within himself and then went on to found the Wagner PMC, the world's most lethal fighting force and a second family to countless men. A true Russian patriot who despised the bureaucracy and never managed to break through it despite his love for his country. She hoped he'd have a bright and eternal memory." The apparent death of Prigozhin strengthens Putin and casts doubt on Wagner Group. A second woman voiced concern that without Prigozhin's protection, Wagner fighters may not make it through the future, and that they may be coerced into joining mercenary groups run by the Ministry of Defense or forced to enlist as volunteer soldiers. Without Yevgeny Prigozhin's charisma, influence, and connections, who will stop the guys from making deals with the Defense Ministry? The authorship rests with her. Who, if anyone, will guarantee their safe return? Tributes were left at the Church of St. Maxim the Blessed on Varvarka Street in Moscow, as well as at the Prigozhin Business Center and a café in his hometown of St. Petersburg. Vasily Vlasov, a member of the State Duma for the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, has proposed renaming the section of St. Petersburg's Zolnaya Street where his office building is located after Prigozhin. Russian media reports that Prigozhin, now 62 years old, met Putin, a former KGB officer working in the office of the mayor, in St. Petersburg in the early 1990s. Prigozhin had been incarcerated since 1990 and had served 9 years of a 13-year sentence for theft, fraud, and robbery.